What's up, guys? In today's video, we're gonna be talking about Blue Archive and how I think it's a bad game, not just gameplay wise, but also philosophically wise. Most people, when I ask them about Blue Archive, they tell me that it's a good game. It's a based and red pilled game because it has no faggots, it has no niggers, or very few of them. But I mean, I wouldn't consider those girls niggers because they're pretty white. But anyway, the point is that it's a based and red pill game because it has no woke shit, it has no faggot shit, and it's a charming, wholesome game without any Reddit slop. I've even heard people say that Blue Archive is proof that good games can still be made in our times. That's well, that's a pretty big exaggeration in my opinion, because well, let's start off with the gameplay. I'm a big fan of the gameplay in games because I think that's the main point of games. And Blue Archive, is mostly a visual novel with some gameplay sprinkled throughout it. And well, it does have some gameplay, so it's not that bad. Like, it's not a full-on visual novel with no fucking gameplay, but the gameplay it does have is kind of pointless, because you can just skip it. You can basically just skip it. I mean, I guess it may get harder on the harder levels, on the later levels, but from what I've seen, you can literally turn off an option to automize your battles, and that's kind of pointless. I mean, don't get why you would even add an option like that in a game. Like, do you just not want people to play your game, or do you expect people to get so bored that they just wish there was an auto feature, an auto option that essentially plays the game for them? And I don't know how good this auto thing is because I've only played the first few levels, for the footage of this video. Maybe it's a shit feature. Maybe it requires overriding at times, but it literally just completed my levels. Like, I literally got up from the chair and went to do something else, and it literally finished the level. I don't really see a point in that because, like I said, a game is meant to be actually fun and played. If your game isn't being played, what the fuck is the point of adding gameplay? What's the point of adding gameplay if you just automize it? Like, that's literally illegal in most games. Like, if you use bots in any game, in any competitive game, even like Fortnite or fucking Diablo or literally anything, you get banned because that's that's illegal. That's not supposed to, like, automizing the fucking game is not something that's supposed to happen. And some games even make it illegal by banning you. This game just does that. I guess it's a mobile game, but mobile games aren't that good because they do shit like this. And idle games too. Like, what the fuck is the point of an idle game? That's literally an oxymoron. But even ignoring the auto feature, which makes no fucking sense, if you just play it like it's supposed to be played, it's kind of boring because you watch these girls clear the stage on their own and you barely control them. You can control when they use their abilities, but that's about it. Like, you can't tell them where to go. You can't control them directly. You can just use their abilities when I guess there's the need. But that's not a lot of control. That's kind of boring in my opinion because you're not really playing it. You're watching these girls do everything. I think that's kind of boring. It's kind of like Clash Royale because there's a cooldown that you have to wait between the using each ability, kind of like the elixir, but it's not like you choose your troops and send them to fight the other guy. Your troops are already chosen, and what you do choose is just when they use their abilities. But in Clash Royale, you actually have to pick and strategize around which which troops to use. Like, how would you automate that? How would you automate which troop to use when? And besides, in Clash Royale, there's different troops. Oh, by the way, I'm not. I don't like Clash Royale. I'm not glazing it right now. I just think it's more of a game than Blue Archive. And Clash Royale doesn't have all that fucking useless text that you have to skip because it's boring and doesn't make sense and whatever. But yeah. Now, about the philosophy of Blue Archive, people say it's a good game because it kind of allows you to be this sort of teacher to these girls, and it supposedly feels good to teach them how to to become better women and to instruct them and shit. Um, I guess this makes sense because most people who play Blue Archive are obviously men, and they like the idea of being this sort of father to these girls, this sort of teacher, dominant figure that instructs and teaches these girls how to do stuff. And I do get that. I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is that Blue Archive exploiting um, this side of male psychology is fucked up because like do you not think that the niggers who made the game know this? Like, do you just think they happen to make a good game? These guys, these people, these Japanese niggas know very well about this phenomena, and I think it's not just Blue Archive, but Blue Archive is a big example, is a good example of this phenomena. But anime as a whole is kind of like this. Anime as a whole exploits cute female, female characters that look like kids. They look like they could be your daughters. And that's exactly why they're so popular, especially in Japan, and this is especially the reason why this shit happened in Japan before it got to us. Because in Japan, it's pretty hard to have a kid because the economy is shit. It's hard to, culturally it's harder and everything. And yeah, the economy is a big factor. So anime sort of developed this kind of little girl lolly kind of stuff because that way they could play onto your feelings and they could exploit your innate desire as a man to protect your kid because you see her as your kid sort of. You see her as a part of yourself, and you must protect her because you're a man. And Blue Archive does this because you unlock these girls, and then they refer to you as teacher, which is an authority figure, kind of similar to being a father, where that's also an authority figure, and you kind of unconsciously think of all these girls as your daughters. So you feel like you're attached to them, and you must protect them, and you must check on them every day, and you can start imagining how that may be exploited and how easily it may be exploited. And Blue Archive does this. It uses neoteny, it uses small, childish, cute girls that could be your daughters, and it puts them behind a paywall, and it makes you desire them in a sort of way. Um, I didn't mention this, but this sort of Japanese thing, the anime girl, which is you kind of see that as your daughter, but you also kind of see her as your wife, because they not only make her childish and and cute like a kid, but they also make her kind of hot. They kind of make her attractive, so they can exploit two desires at once to make her even more desirable. They make her attractive, like your partner, and they also make her cute, like your daughter. So you see her as a romantic partner and also as a daughter. What Blue Archive does is put you in a situation where you're sort of a father to all these girls, and that creates a sort of relationship where you feel like you're obliged to uh, to protect these girls or check on them and or interact with them in some way because you're the authority figure, you're the father, and you want these girls, you want what's best for these girls. But that's just an exploitation of the male psyche, because they know that it is hard for you as a male to find a wife. They know it's hard economically to be able to sustain a child. And they exploit this shit, and it pisses me off so much. They exploit this fucking dog shit system, and they give you these mediums, these sort of surrogates, and a lot of men fall for them. They fall for them. So instead of trying to find a wife and a good job so they can sustain their children, they resort to this because it's easier and because it costs less. But I think it's fucked as shit. It's really fucking fucked because they're just giving you these disgusting fucking surrogates, and they don't give a fuck about the actual problem. They make it look all cutesy and wholesome, while the problem they're literally exploiting is dark and sinister as fuck. I don't think cutesy, wholesome anime would be as popular if we didn't have this economic problem that's made by Jews. And on that topic, 2% of Nexon, which is the fucking faggots who made the game, is owned by BlackRock. I mean, call it a coincidence, call it, oh, well, it's only 2%. It's still, bro. BlackRock technically owns part of that fucking company. So you should be very wary of this kind of shit. They may be Korean and Japanese or whatever, but there's still some Jewish influence. There's literally a problem with our society, and they feed us their fucking poison instead of fixing the fucking society itself. If Blue Archive gave a shit about this kind of stuff, they wouldn't be making this kind of games. Gacha games as a whole have this problem. They're literally exploiting a massive fucking issue with today's world for their personal gain. There's nothing good about this. There's nothing wholesome about this kind of shit. And you may be telling me, "Oh, you're a fucking schizophrenic. You're literally seeing shit, bruh." This shit is literal male psychology. You want to protect kids. So the fucking Japanese made a creature that looks like a kid and it also is attractive. So you want this kind of creature and you spend money for this fucking creature. Why do you think all of this is a fucking coincidence? It can't be a coincidence, bro. It literally cannot be a coincidence. Why do you think these girls refer to you as teacher? Do you think that's random? Do you think they just came up with the idea, hey, why don't we make the player a teacher? They know what they did. This isn't a coincidence. They didn't make you a teacher for shit and giggles. They made you a teacher because it's an authority figure, similar to a father. So you unconsciously associate being a father with being a teacher, and your students as your daughters. It's not a fucking coincidence, all right? Like, why do you think that all these people who play Blue Archive want to protect and defend these girls? Why do you think they care so much about them? They're literally pixels on a screen. It's because they see them as their daughters. And obviously there's more nuance to that than you might think. For example, the school setting is very specific. Well, it's obviously going to be a school setting if the main character, so Yui, is a teacher. But it's school setting because people who play Blue Archive are adult males and they miss being in school. And you know why the girls have guns? Because men are interested in guns. And some of the girls even have male interests. Men are interested in guns and going back to school, or at least they're nostalgic about school and they like having daughters or children, which is also why every girl in the game is underage. And people will tell me, oh, but women are cringe, they're feminists nowadays, so there's no really other option. Bro, I understand this. I do understand how women are retarded, but surrendering like this and just accepting defeat is just not, it's not a good strategy in my opinion. Women may be retarded, but we just can't surrender like this. We can't go out without a fucking fight, you know? And I forgot to add that the music sounds kind of similar to that of Nintendo. And I don't know if this is coincidence, probably not, because nothing is a coincidence. But you know, men played Nintendo as kids, so they're also nostalgic about that. There's nostalgic about Nintendo, school, and girls and shit. So yeah, another thing to keep in mind. I mean, if you're a Blue Archive player, when like as a kid, would you ever have imagined that you'd be playing Blue Archive? Like, what would your younger self say if he saw you playing Blue Archive? Would he say, "Oh, that's really cool," or would he say, "Man, what a fucking loser! How did I become a fucking loser like that?" Do you think he would say this? The reality is that every company wants to profit, and so does Blue Archive. It's as shit as the other companies, but I especially dislike what they're exploiting, because other game companies may be trying to make a fun game. They may be exploiting some people, like you know companies that make gay shit. They might just want to appeal to faggots, so they buy their games even though they don't give a fuck about them. But uh, but some companies do make fun games. They're trying to make fun games because that's what they need to do. Blue Archive is just a visual novel that exploits male psychology, and they fucking hate it for it. But I think that's about it. You know, tell me what you think in the comments, and see you, niggas.